It's been a few months since I've been back home from an unforgettable, almost 3-week adventure in Japan. I've wanted to make this video for all of my viewers who are curious how the trip went and what I recommend doing there. While I hope that you enjoyed this video, I still don't think this video can do the trip justice. It's hard to fit the magic of one country in a video, but I'm gonna do my best. This has been a bucket list dream of mine for years, so to finally explore this incredible country was surreal. And my boyfriend and I were fortunate to explore more than one corner of the country, so I'll share in chronological order where we went and what I absolutely recommend you do if you choose to go. We booked this trip hoping to be there just in time for cherry blossom season, and we got there during the perfect time. We even stayed long enough to see the blossoms shed their petals. It was such a magical experience, and part of the magic lies within how fleeting it is. We flew through Los Angeles because it was cheaper to fly first class if we traveled through LA, and we left on April 6 for Tokyo. Are you excited?
Yes, I've never been on a plane before.
Now, just FYI, I've never flown first class domestically, but we decided to splurge on this because it is such a once-in-a-lifetime trip, and it was cheaper to fly this way, actually, the way we did it through LA. So this is just a look at what the first class, or business class as they call it on some airlines, looks like. You get your own little cubicle, and the seat, of course, lies completely flat so that you can go to sleep if you want, or just enjoy watching TV or movies laying down. And I thought that this safety video was quite funny. I am actually not a fan of turbulence at all, and it was quite turbulent on the flight home. But here were some really silly little animations of people fighting the turbulence on the plane. So I thought that this was kind of funny. And I took this little clip when I knew that we were so close to Japan. It was such a long flight, and I was so ready to get off of that plane. And I was quite a little bit loopy and delirious. So it was really, really exciting seeing our destination, particularly because most of the flight to and from Japan is over water. So seeing the land and knowing that we were almost there, the end was in sight. 12 hours later, we arrived, beyond tired and still not done with the commute. We flew in through the Narita airport, which was a great airport, but it was a bit further from Tokyo, and so we flew out through Haneda, which is a newer airport and much closer to where we were staying in Shinjuku. When we arrived, we were very tired, and this line looked like it was going to take at least an hour, but then the process was sped up and we were finally able to head to our hotel in Tokyo. We stayed in Shinjuku at the Hotel Gracery, which is a Godzilla-themed hotel. It was really cool. As you can see, Godzilla-themed hotel at the Hotel Gracery where I'm staying, and if you're a Godzilla fan, you would love the inside too, so let me show it to you. And we spent the first few nights in Tokyo knowing that we were going to keep our travel plans very flexible. So it was pretty rainy the first day in Tokyo, but I really loved looking out the window and just realizing, holy crap, we're in Japan. We decided to spend the first day kind of just walking around Shinjuku and not having any solid plans. We went through some of the stores, including this pet store that had near perfect looking animals. And then we also saw these toy vending machines all over. Apparently these are called gashapon, and these are vending machines that sell capsule toys and other tiny products for a few hundred yen almost everywhere in Japan. This is a distinctive feature of Japan and a compulsive type of amusement, along with the many arcades and sort of claw machines that are also lining the streets of Tokyo. By the way, I never saw anyone win a toy in the claw machines, so that was a little bit strange. One of my favorite things to do was to check out the Japanese version of American food chains like Starbucks, like McDonald's, Burger King. They even had an original House of Pancakes version there in Japan. But one thing that you'll notice is that a lot of these foods look incredibly sweet, but nothing in Japan is that sweet compared to American sweets or desserts or even meals. I was just endlessly fascinated with seeing their versions of what we have here in the United States, but also realizing how incredibly unhealthy the food is that we have here. It honestly made me kind of sad coming back home because I felt like I was going to be exposed to extremely hyperpalatable food again if I wasn't careful. But yeah, the main takeaway here is that none of these desserts were actually really all that sweet, which is strange to say because they look kind of unhealthy. Even their cold stones was kind of like fruit and some bland-ish ice cream, but the presentation was awesome. And of course, it's better to eat healthy anyways, but this is something that Japanese people do not seem to struggle with. If I were to describe Japan in 3 words, it's elegant, polite, and magical. Listen to this. So this was our first full day in Japan, and of course we had to see the cherry blossoms, which weren't hard to find. They are pretty much everywhere in Japan, and some of the petals you can see are falling, but this is such a celebrated phenomenon throughout Japan. Everyone wants to take pictures and enjoy the moment. And the Japanese really not only have respect for each other, but also for nature, as you can see. And this was some video of a bathroom. No, I didn't get any video of anyone inside of there, but I just wanted to show you what it's like inside. They were the cleanest bathrooms I've ever seen. Here was at one of the local shrines, which you're gonna find shrines and temples of the likes pretty much everywhere. And this was a way that you could write down a prayer. And so here are just some of the prayers from people all around the world, praying for health, happiness, safety for their family, etc. I did make a prayer while I was there, and it was just really cool to see so many people from around the world and read what they wrote down. Now, it did start raining on and off. It rained on and off throughout the trip, but it wasn't anything too crazy, and I loved this of this man walking, I don't even know how many dogs, probably 10 or so dogs in there. That was just a cute sight and a lot of leashes to manage. Now, one of the things that you'll find, particularly in Tokyo, is there's a lot of these animal cafes. So what the heck is an animal cafe? Basically, here we're going to a hedgehog cafe, which means that we go in there, we're able to spend a certain amount of money to have about 30 minutes or so with the animal, and then, as a secondary thing, have a drink, a coffee or something. But really, it's mostly about spending time with various animals, everything from capybara to hedgehogs to hamsters, bunnies, cats, dogs, even owls, which we'll get to a little later in the video. I'm not sure how these would be perceived in the United States. I've never seen as many animal cafes as I did in Japan, and I've seen a few cat cafes in the United States, but in Japan they had almost any animal that you can think of as an opportunity to spend time with it one-on-one. So I'm sure some people probably don't like this idea, but when in Rome, we decided to see what it was about. And people make the joke that Japan is living in 2050, and it's billboards like these that definitely make that seem more realistic. Speaking of Japan living in 2050, here's another great example. We decided to go bowling in Japan. We bowl a lot here in the United States. They had the screen where you could replay every single frame, which was really helpful in seeing your form and maybe what you could improve. Now, one of the other fun facts about Japan, the largest bowling alley in the world is actually in Japan, but that is not the one that we went to because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But still, nonetheless, it was really fun to bowl in Japan, and somehow they managed to be more futuristic than the bowling alleys that we have here in Texas. Sorry, one more example of how they're living in the future. Look at this bathroom mirror that basically defogs a portion of it so that when you get out of the shower or the bath, you can see your lovely face. And another way that we're just simply living in the future is that we can translate basically anything on our phone using this app called Google Lens. So you can see that we had a washing machine and dryer in our hotel, and of course I can't read any of these buttons, but if I hover my cell phone over it, then it translates it for me through Google Lens, and I was able to work the washing machine, which was just so incredibly helpful. You can put it up to food packages for label translation. It basically works on any signage, anything in Japanese, and it was tremendously helpful. So after 4 nights in Tokyo, consisting of amazing food, a ton of animal cafes, getting adjusted to the subway system, going to the Tokyo Zoo and seeing a panda there, and of course going to many 7-Elevens and getting late night snacks, we decided it was time to head to our next destination, Kyoto. Breathe.
Had to take them off. They're so slippery downhill. I am not breaking a leg again.
However, one of the things, because of course it can't all be good, one of the things that I do not want to do again is this fish bath. Nothing terrible happened, but they don't really offer these in many places, and I'm not sure if it's a sanitary thing, but I was pretty grossed out after the experience, and so probably won't be doing this again, but it is one of the few places in the world where you can find this offered. And so yeah, it's basically just a bunch of these little fish. They don't bite you, they sort of nibble and suck on your feet, and they get rid of a lot of dead skin, but yeah. Do not recommend. So going to Kyoto, our hotel was much bigger than it was in Tokyo. We stayed at Tokyo Stay, and this was a very convenient location, and I just couldn't believe how much space we had in this room. So this room in Kyoto is like twice the size, if not bigger, than the room in Tokyo. And one of the things that also surprised me is that all of the plugs work with what I have, so no adapters have been needed so far, which was very, very surprising. But this is my view from Kyoto, and we have this nice little desk where I can work and finish editing the video that I need to finish editing. And there's actually also this washing machine, which is I'm gonna have to use my Google Lens, but I think it's a combined washer and dryer. So pretty freaking nice here. Now, some of the main things that we were recognizing when we went from Tokyo to Kyoto is that Kyoto is much more traditional, Tokyo is modern. Tokyo takes a lot more energy. Kyoto can be more relaxing, although we did still do a lot of walking because there were so many sights to see. Tokyo is a bit more expensive than Kyoto for travelers. And as I mentioned, it's very easy to travel between the two. It takes about 2 hours and 15 minutes by bullet train to get from Tokyo to Kyoto. So if you're going to go to Japan, it really depends on how much time that you have there. I would say Tokyo is number one, but if you have more than 4 days or 5 days, I would definitely try to see Kyoto, as it can even be a day trip, and it's such a different culture that I think it's worth seeing. Also, shout out to the sick climbing gym that I found in Japan. You cannot play if you're drunk, which I don't drink, but I thought that this sign was funny. And one kind of funny thing too is that the climbing in Japan is completely sandbagged, which, what does that mean? It means that it's hard as heck. People in Japan are very light, but for some reason, just the grading is much, much harder than what you would find in the United States. You can ask climbers about this. Everyone pretty much agrees. So I was climbing some really baby routes, but climbing is a lot harder in Japan. The nice part about being in Kyoto is that Nara, a place famed for its friendly wild deer, is just an hour away, making a perfect day trip. One of the most magical experiences of my life so far was going to Nara. That is where you can see there are all of these deer. They're wild, but they're pretty used to humans. And one of the cool things is that you can feed them crackers. There's cracker vendors all over the area. And the deer are very relaxed. And of course, you know, you want to respect their space. This one was pretty chill, as you can see. But one of them actually ended up nibbling my leg a little bit when I ran out of crackers.
These deer, he almost got my scar. These deer will bite.
So they know that people have crackers, and if you run out of crackers, you might be chased by them because they are still hungry despite being very well fed. I was trying to get this one to bow because apparently they're supposed to bow back. I'm not really sure if we got this one right, but also just look at the nature surrounding Nara. This place is so beautiful, it doesn't even seem real. Also, in case you were wondering, my favorite temple of the trip was in Nara, and this was inside the Great Buddha Hall, where I tried to climb through this hole in the pillar. The legend says that if you manage to pass through the hole, you will attain enlightenment in the next life, but it looks like I am not going to be that lucky. If there were one more reason that I wanted to feel obese in Japan, this was it. But all jokes aside, it was fun to try it, and definitely impressed by the very tall adult man in front of me who was able to do it.
Very embarrassing.
Oh my. Hey, do you want me to take your fanny pack? It's gonna be tight. Wait, okay, you're good. All right. Oh my goodness, babe. There's no way.
We spent quite a few days in Kyoto, and I almost completely forgot that we went to this monkey park, which was definitely worth the long, steep uphill hike to get to it. So you get to this park, which is located pretty high up, by going through the Arashiyama bamboo forest. It's a tough climb, but it's an unforgettable experience. I've never been this close to snow monkeys, and there's a way to feed them through the fence, but they also walk around by your feet, which is kind of terrifying, but they're pretty used to people.
You can hand it to me. I give him a big one?
Yeah. Pick them up. There she is. My girl.
Keep the paddle straight.
From Kyoto, we made our way to Hiroshima. We made sure to visit Hiroshima not just because it is historically significant, but we wanted to see what the city was like today, nearly 80 years after being completely decimated by the atomic bomb. While remnants of the bombing still stand, like the famous A-bomb dome, there's also great beauty and hidden gems in this city. We had a magical experience in one of the best gardens, if not the best I've ever been to. I might be butchering this pronunciation, but the Shuki-en garden had plenty of beautiful plants and animals to make it an amusing spot to walk around and enjoy Mother Nature. We'd also never tried okonomiyaki or even knew what it was until coming to Hiroshima. That being said, it's an amazingly delicious dish, a savory Japanese pancake of sorts that is made in layers. And let me give you an example of the Japanese culture. We went to a lunch spot completely famished and waited an hour and a half to get in due to the restaurant having a small crew of 2 and being in high demand. But this is a point I want to make about Japan. The people do not want to sacrifice quality for quantity. It's a way of life gone in many ways in the unnecessarily productive culture we have here in the States. We also experienced a small but noticeable earthquake while we were in Hiroshima. This was the first time I'd ever received an earthquake alert before the earthquake. Now, we still went down 27 flights of stairs to stand outside of the hotel, which probably was unnecessary, but it really freaked me out because I know that earthquakes can be quite prevalent in Japan. However, no one was really concerned except for me. So, funniest moment of the night here in Japan was for the first time I was refused to try on a piece of clothing There was a store that was open late selling these really cute dresses, all one size, which is just what everything seems to be in Japan. And I asked the lady if I could try it on. Well, first I asked her if it's all one size, and she said, yes, sorry, like looking me up and down. And then I found one with really stretchy material, and I asked if I could try it on, and she's like, no, I'm sorry. And I was like, what the hell? I have never been, like, literally refused to try something on, so humbling, I guess. We then made our way to Mount Fuji because, of course, we had to go there. We had the time, and so we wanted to see the beautiful landscape and surrounding area of Mount Fuji. But we also stayed in one of the nicest rooms that I've ever stayed in. This was a little bit more expensive, but I think that it was well worth it. And just look at the bathing situation. Japan is known for having pristine, wonderful bathrooms and hygiene, but this one really knocked it out of the park. Also, I had no idea, but we were walking and discovered that there is a theme park in the Mount Fuji vicinity with one of the craziest roller coasters that my boyfriend has ever been on and that I've ever seen. I did not want to go on it because it looked scary and like it would make me sick, but he said that it was pretty amazing. So if you're there and you have the time, definitely check it out. Now, we actually never went to the base of the mountain, but we went on a really popular hike near Mount Fuji, and so you could see it off in the distance. It was beautiful. So overall, I'm glad that we had time to make this stop, but I wouldn't put it as the first or even second place that you need to go in Japan. I really think that Tokyo and Kyoto hold both of those spots, but I would rather go to Mount Fuji than Hiroshima, just because Hiroshima, like I said, it made me very depressed. And it was pretty sad being there. So I really loved the beauty of Mount Fuji, and I hope that next time I go, I can actually hike some of the mountain. And then we made our way back to Tokyo to spend a few more nights. We definitely didn't want to leave, but we had already extended the trip by an extra 5 days at this point. And so we decided to finish out the trip where we began it in Tokyo, because Tokyo is so big, there's so much to do there, and it would be hard to run out of things. We did go to Disney Sea and Disneyland. Disney Sea first, the next day Disneyland, and that was really a cool adventure. This is a video that I made on my channel here that already has over 45,000 views, and you probably have noticed this channel isn't that big, so I think Disney Sea and Disneyland in Tokyo is a very interesting topic, and in many ways much better than any of the other parks. So you can watch that video if you want. But we also went to this owl cafe that I had actually booked in advance so that we could get a private experience, and it was well worth the extra money to be there when the store was closed and have this incredible experience with all of these different owls. The couple actually used to do photography, and so they've combined their love of photography and elegance with their pet owls. So like I said, we extended our trip from April 20th to April 25th, so we flew home on April 25th. It was a bit quicker flying the other direction, so our flight was 10 hours to LA, and then we flew to Austin right after that. By the time our heads hit the pillow, we'd been up for 27 hours, and we were quite delirious. Of course, I could have slept on the plane, but it's really hard for me to sleep on planes, so actually maybe I couldn't have. It's very hard for me to sleep on a plane. And that flight back to Austin, we were met with some pretty hot weather, so I already missed Japan just for that reason alone, because the weather was absolutely perfect during the time frame that we went. So I'm giving you guys these dates because I think that the dates that we chose to go to Japan were nearly perfect. So again, we went early April, April 6th, we returned home April 25th, and I absolutely would love to go back. It's definitely, you know, a privilege to go there, but at the same time, it is exhausting traveling that far away and adjusting to a time zone that's so far away from home. It was definitely exhausting, and we tried to make the most of the trip, so all of our days were jam-packed with a ton of walking and sightseeing, but it was such an incredible experience, and I still can't believe that we finally got to go. So I hope that this video interests you in going to Japan. Maybe you've already went, maybe you've always wanted to go there too, but I would definitely say that it is probably the best trip I've ever been on. And I've been, you know, several places around the United States and some places internationally, but Japan really takes the cake. And if I had to live there for a year, it wouldn't be a have to, it would be a want to. It is such a cool place, and the hospitality there is unparalleled. So I really can't wait to go back there, but part of the reason that I wanted to go now is because I plan on starting a family, and obviously that will make any travel plans harder. So I'm really happy that we got to go there, and it's just an amazing country. So hopefully you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Elevated if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.
So I was looking for tourist attractions and things to do, and these are the stairs of success. You probably can't tell. This looks really steep, so I'm gonna time myself doing it.
Honestly, I feel like this video doesn't even scratch the surface, so maybe I'll remake this video in the future, but I wanted to get something out there as it's been several months since my trip. But if you made it to the end and maybe you want some more, here are just some tips and tricks. One of the things that I also didn't mention was this interactive art museum that honestly, it was like super busy, hard to get a reservation, sold out most days, but it was actually kind of disappointing and also kind of unsanitary. So obviously I've said that I loved pretty much every single thing in Japan, but this is one of the things that is getting a lot of hype right now, but I don't actually think it's necessarily worth going. It's called Team Labs. So again, if you're in the area and you happen to walk by it and maybe you're able to get in, it's cool, but I don't think it's worth planning a whole day around. Here's another thing that you should know. Carry your passport if you're going to go shopping in the subways.
The subways here are not only way cleaner than in the United States, but they're basically big shopping centers, and they're definitely worth checking out. One of the things that's important to know, especially if you're a girl, is that most things are one size here. Surprisingly, I was able to fit in this, but that's something to be aware of. Another thing is that most things that you try on, you're actually not going to be able to take home with you. They give you a unwrapped bag, whatever item it is in your size, and I think that might have to do with cleanliness. And last but not least, if you're a tourist, bring your passport because it will give you a discount.
Also, try real wasabi when you're in Japan. It's not nearly as spicy as whatever horseradish concoction they have here in the United States, and it was a totally different texture. But I will say I did miss my cream cheese filled spicy mayo slathered sushi rolls in the United States. But one of the things that I also really liked was the noodles and the variety of noodles in Japan. And it's not good news for Japanese people, but as of the recording of this video, the yen has plunged to a 38-year low versus the dollar, and markets are bracing for a Japanese intervention. So Japan is definitely experiencing an influx of tourists due to this historic collapse of the yen, which means cheaper traveling for you and I. And in 2024, more than 14.5 million people arrived in the country for the first 5 months of the year, me being one of those people. And this is according to the Japan National Tourism latest figures. That's 70% up from the same period last year and on track to beat 2019's record 31 million visitors. So it's safe to say I might be going back to Japan sooner than I thought I would, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and truly, I can't recommend going to this country enough. I smile just thinking about it, and I really can't wait to return to Japan. Thanks for watching this video. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. I have a full-time channel, Ellie in Space, where I have over 100,000 subscribers, but this is my second sort of more personal channel, so if you are enjoying it, thanks for joining.